Ladies and gentlemen, despite the fact that people are dying on opioids, there's still a lot of folks that demand opioids for their pain. And I did a video on a survey that was done, and people still prefer opioids as their choice for pain management after surgery, and they still want their doctors to prescribe it. So there is an internal war going on in America over opioids. This came out in the Hill December 10th, 2018. The Civil War over prescription opioids. All right, so it starts out talking about a nurse that had to get spinal surgery, and she's been in pain since. She needs two additional operations, and she recently reached out to her doctor for opioids, and he informed her because of government pressure, he could not prescribe them to her. And she was like, okay, well, why are you treating me like a junkie? I'm not abusing the opioids. So, over the past 10 to 15 years, attitudes towards opioid use for pain have shifted dramatically. In the 1990s and early 2000, pain relief was front and center on the newsstands and in medical literature. During that time, compassion for people in pain increased and permeated our culture, and opioids became a standard therapy for pain in this country. And we know that, but not for Black people. Remember, they would only give us um, a 2 week supply and claim that we would abuse them and sell them. But it was never us abusing and selling them. Uh-huh. But be grateful that they felt that way, ladies and gentlemen, because it spared us a much worse situation than what we're looking at. Are Black people on opioid? Yes, there are some, but we are in much lower numbers in doing opioids than the white community. So the fact that their doctors took that racist stand, I thank you. I thank you every day. We don't need another situation similar to the crack epidemic in our neighborhood. So by the middle of the first decade of the 21st century, however, opioid related casualties started to rise. When these deaths were attributed to increased opioid prescriptions for pain, tragic stories of ordinary citizens dying of opioid overdoses grabbed the headlines. Predictably, the United States public demanded a quick and easy solution. Accordingly, many medical professionals changed their attitudes towards opioids. They replaced their compassion for people in pain with a concern for those being harmed by opioids. It was reasonable to be concerned about people who were harmed by opioids. However, it shouldn't be a binary choice. Reports about opioids routinely focus on people who overdose, but they ignored why opioids had been prescribed in the first place. People in chronic pain were mostly forgotten. Negative culture attitudes about opioids also seep into, yeah, it did. Many people start seeing opioids negatively. So now doctors are limiting the scripts that they're writing, but the only shift that's happening, the reason why fentanyl is getting to the American public now is because these folks can no longer get a prescription from the doctor. They're not going to stop doing drugs, ladies and gentlemen. They're just going to find something else to get high on or get pain relief. If they can't get pain relief from their doctors, they're going to go to the illegal drug. And this is why fentanyl has jumped up so high in drug overdose deaths. Okay, for example, the Journal of the American Medical Association published an article last March titled Effect of Opioids versus Non-Opioid Medications on pain-related functions in patients with chronic back pain or hip or knee. Okay, osteoarthritis pain. The space and randomized clinical trial. Subsequently, a firestorm of media articles appeared that misrepresented the study and supported the anti opioid narrative. The Washington Post joined the fray when its editorial board responded to the JAMA articles with a column titled Another Harsh Truth About Opioids. They're not a better way to manage pain with this editorial. One more prestigious newspaper got the story wrong, and hundreds of reports followed that continue to misrepresent the science about opioids. I explain why these conclusions from the JAMA article were flawed in a pain medicine commentary. Well, a veritable war now exists between the needs of people in pain on one side and the popular crusade to limit and even ban opioid use on the other. With the zeal of moral crusaders, most clinicians and policymakers fall into one of the two camps. There almost seems to be a competition to see who can most egregiously demonize prescription opioids without sufficient scientific justification and without regards to the consequences. Here are two examples. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services issued new opioid prescribing policies for Medicare drug plans that will take effect in January 2019. These policies were developed to curb overprescribing because some believe that overprescribing is the main contributing factor in opioid-related overdose deaths. However, in 2017, prescription opioids were involved in only 19,000 of the 72,000 overdoses. Moreover, 25 to 45% of overdose deaths may be suicides. The CMS policies are based on the CDC opioid prescribing guidelines, which is based on a weak research. Nevertheless, governmental agencies are experiencing enormous pressure to do something about the opioid plague while ignoring those in severe pain. Even worse is the proposal by the Oregon Chronic Pain Task Force to drastically limit access to opioids for Medicaid patients who have been in severe pain. This proposal would force doctors to reduce dose levels regardless of the patient's need or the effect on their quality of life. The proposed changes are inconsistent with multiple guidelines, including the CDC guidelines for prescribing opioids for chronic pain and the new CMS opioid prescribing policies. Medical professionals have started to voice their concern. The American Medical Association and Oregon Medical Association have said the Oregon Chronic Pain Task Force is proposing policies that could harm people in pain. Pain experts have sent Governor Kate Brown a letter warning that the proposed changes are unsupported by science and could leave many patients more disabled and suffering needlessly. The scientific literature, media reporting, and policymakers are all responsible for analyzing two things without bias: the root cause of opioid plague and the consequences of any corrective policies might have on people in pain. They don't care at that time, at this particular time, because they have threatened these doctors to the point where the DEA can come in on them if they start prescribing at the same levels that they did before. You see, they're putting these doctors in jail. So many of them are now holding back on writing these prescriptions. They won't even give people enough pain meds after surgery now. And I was looking at an article where people are foregoing surgery because they said if they can't have something to manage their pain after undergoing surgery, they just won't get the surgery. Okay. So this thing is really going deep. It's going deep. So you got people on one side that say they want the pain management because they need it and they want it for after surgeries. And you got people on the other side that says, no, don't be writing all these scripts. We don't care what pain they're in. Don't write the script. So right now, behind the scenes, these two groups of people are fighting like hell over these opioids. Okay. Unfortunately, none of the governmental interventions have turned the tide on overdose deaths, and it won't, because as long as the street drug is out there, you're not going to see any change in overdose deaths. You're not. In fact, evidence suggests that interventions like the dose limit imposed by payers and legislators have actually pushed abusers and patients to the street where the most dangerous drugs are found. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm going to say. Look, if that doctor won't write the script, they're going to go straight to a drug dealer. And that's what many of these people are doing. We can't solve the war over prescription opioids by failing to treat the millions of Americans who suffer from chronic pain. Unfortunately, by focusing only on the supply of opioids while ignoring those in pain, we will actually worsen a public health crisis, and that began when we, inspired by compassion, attempted to relieve pain. So they're telling them it's going to get worse, and it is getting worse because much of the street drugs are now laced with fentanyl. So once they go to the street drug and they go a bit too far, they're going to end up overdosing and dying. So they are in a serious dilemma, y'all. They are in a serious dilemma now. But please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.